Forbes has reported that Disney netted $170 million on its 2025 live-action Snow White remake starring Rachel Zegler. She's a favourite of ours. The film has failed to make back that $336 million the company spent making it.
In November 2025, Disney raised the price of its annual streaming subscription from $79 to $159.
And Disney is raising prices on its streaming services starting October 21st. The ad-supported Disney Plus plan will jump $2 to $11.99 a month. Now, the ad-free version is increasing by $3 to $18.99 a month. Fees for bundled plans with Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN will also increase. The announcement comes as Disney has faced calls for boycotts after its temporary suspension of ABC's Jimmy Kimmel Live show, which returned last night.
Disney is hiking prices on its streaming services. Starting on October 21st, the ad-supported Disney Plus plan will jump $2 to $11.99 a month. The ad-free version is increasing by $3 to $18.99 a month. Fees for bundled plans with Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN will also increase.
That's not a price hike. That's a statement. And within weeks, millions of subscribers canceled.
That's right, and today we are talking about how the suspension of Jimmy Kimmel prompted some Disney Plus users to cancel their subscriptions. Laz, it sounds like the consumer has a lot to say here.
Exactly, and that's one of the takeaways from this whole episode. As you heard earlier from Gene Kang's report, Disney says that they reached the decision to bring Jimmy Kimmel back to the airwaves tomorrow night after having what they called thoughtful discussions with the talk show host. Moreover, that stands for what it is, but it also follows reports that many people canceled their Disney Plus and Hulu subscriptions to voice a protest against Kimmel's suspension, including some very influential subscribers, such as, say, Howard Stern.
But here's what no one is asking. Why would one of the most powerful entertainment companies in history deliberately drive away its own customers?
Meanwhile, tonight, the controversy over Kimmel's suspension continues to ripple across the country, with the president echoing the FCC chairman, suggesting that broadcast media who he says are against him could lose their licenses.
They give me only bad publicity or press. I mean, they're getting a license. I would think maybe their license should be taken away.
And why, at the same moment, is Disney Plus finally making money? This is not the story of a streaming service that failed. This is the story of a company that bet everything on a future that looked nothing like they imagined. And the 39 million subscribers who canceled were never really the point. To understand what's happening now, you have to go back to where it started. Not with Disney Plus, with Netflix. In the early 2000s, Netflix was mailing DVDs in red envelopes.
Netflix has mailed out its last red DVD envelope. The first DVD shipped in 1988, and it was a copy of Tim Burton's Beetlejuice. The final envelope contained the DVD copy of the 2010 film True Grit, directed by Joel and Ethan Coen.
Blockbuster laughed at them. Then Netflix moved to streaming, and Blockbuster went bankrupt.
What are the advantages that you have in the DVD world that maybe you don't bring to streaming? And then let's talk about the competition.
Well, in streaming, we have so many advantages that we actually don't have in DVD. Mostly that it's so compelling for consumers. Right. And now we compete in a much broader, we compete globally, right now just Canada, but we'll be expanding beyond that because streaming allows us to do that. Competing in television shows in addition to movies. So on DVD, we're mostly all movies. Right. But on streaming, we're about half television shows and half movies. And so big expansion in the available market, ways to please consumers. And then for consumers, it's click and watch, right? Built into their PS3 or Xbox or Wii. Now in the new televisions, it's getting built in. So it's getting easier and easier to just use Netflix. So tremendous advantages to the consumer.
The lesson was simple and brutal. The format always wins.
But they're developing some interesting ideas to get what they can out of their existing copper phone lines, like video on demand. We've got a setup here to show what they're aiming at. The idea is, from the comfort of your armchair, you'll choose whatever video you want.
Cable was the next blockbuster, And Disney knew it.
Blockbuster will close all of its remaining stores, about 300 of them, and shut down its DVD mailing service by early January. Blockbuster, which is now owned by the Dish Network, will live on as a streaming service.
By the mid-2000s, Disney had been quietly assembling something extraordinary. Pixar in 2006, Marvel in 2009, Lucasfilm in 2012.
Today, I am proud to announce the Walt Disney Company is acquiring Lucasfilm, the global entertainment company founded by George Lucas and the home of the legendary Star Wars franchise.
Okay.
Three of the most beloved creative universes ever built, all under one roof. But the move that changed everything came in 2018. Disney acquired 21st Century Fox for $71.3 billion.
And a multi-billion-dollar bidding war is heating up. Today, Disney upped its bid to buy 21st Century Fox for $71.3 billion. And that's in response to Comcast's recent offer of $66 billion. Initially, Disney offered $52.4 billion in December. The purchase would include Fox's movie studio along with their regional sports networks.
The Simpsons, Avatar, X-Men, National Geographic, Alien. The list was staggering. But buried inside that deal was something most people overlooked: Hotstar, an Indian streaming platform with hundreds of millions of viewers and rights to some of the most watched cricket tournaments on Earth. At that moment, Disney wasn't just building a streaming service, they were building a global empire. November 12, 2019. Disney Plus launched at $6.99 a month, 10 million signups on the first day alone. Netflix reported subscriber losses. Its stock dropped 14%. Disney jumped 28%. One analyst called Disney Plus the most dangerous threat to Netflix in history. And for a moment, it genuinely looked that way. The Mandalorian premiered. Within weeks, it had surpassed 5.4 billion minutes of viewing time. Baby Yoda was everywhere. The internet was obsessed. By 2020, Disney Plus had passed 73 million subscribers.
And Elaine, we talk about this every single time we talk about earnings at this point, but it's been a year since Disney Plus hit the market. 73 million paid subs for Disney Plus as of the end of fourth quarter. It sort of seems to me like Disney at this point is sort of a streaming company.
Their internal projections had expected to hit that number by 2024. They were 4 years ahead of schedule. But here's where the story gets complicated, because subscriber numbers and actual success are very different things. Netflix was playing a different game entirely. While Disney was leaning on its legendary backlog of content, Netflix was spending aggressively on originals. House of Cards, Stranger Things, Squid Game. Shows with no prior fan base, no built-in audience, nothing to inherit. Just storytelling good enough to make people talk. In 2016, Netflix spent $6.8 billion on content.
I think the first thing was we knew this price increase was coming in the U.S., but it's actually international as well in some of their more mature markets. So they won't be specific, but numbers are going up this morning, and that's a big part of it. I think the guidance for contribution profit for international is 10% above. Also, I think there's confidence around the lack of elasticity. So really, that this is a company who believes they have pricing power when you just saw Hulu lower prices in response to this.
By 2020, that had risen to $11.8 billion. And it worked. Because here's the uncomfortable truth about streaming subscribers. 36% of them are what the industry calls service hoppers. They sign up for the show everyone is talking about. They watch it in a weekend, then they cancel. Disney had a legendary vault, but a vault is not a conversation. After The Mandalorian, Disney struggled to replicate that momentum. Star Wars: The Acolyte cost $230 million for a single season. It couldn't keep subscribers engaged. The Marvel shows came and went. The buzz faded faster than anyone expected. And then came the number that stopped everyone cold. In 2022, Disney's streaming division posted a $4 billion loss. $4 billion. In the same year, Netflix posted a $5.6 billion profit. The strategy that was supposed to dethrone Netflix had instead created one of the most expensive experiments in entertainment history. So why did it go wrong? Part of it was scale. Netflix had been operating globally since 2016, present in over 190 countries by the time Disney Plus even launched. That kind of reach takes years to build. Disney was playing catch-up before the race even began. But the deeper problem was Hotstar. Those hundreds of millions of Indian subscribers Disney had inherited through the Fox deal? They were paying almost nothing, a few cents per month in some markets. Subscriber count went up. Revenue per subscriber stayed dangerously low. Disney was scaling fast and losing money faster, and the content machine wasn't helping. In the race to fill Disney Plus, the company produced at a pace that prioritized volume over impact. Shows were greenlit, budgets ballooned, quality became inconsistent. The audience noticed. One audience member put it plainly in a comment that got thousands of likes. "I used to feel like every Disney Plus release was an event. Now I don't even know what's new." That sentence is the whole story. If you're finding this breakdown valuable, take a second to subscribe. This channel spends weeks building these investigations, and your support is what keeps them coming. Now, back to the collapse. By 2023, Disney had a decision to make. Keep chasing subscribers at any cost, or start building something that actually made money. They chose the second option, and the road was painful. First, they bundled Hulu with Disney Plus to increase perceived value without dramatically increasing costs. Then they began pulling back on aggressive content spending. Then came Hotstar. When the Indian Premier League cricket rights came back up for auction, Disney placed a disciplined bid and walked away when the price got too high.
No, I think the reality is all of these streaming platforms are realizing just how difficult it is, not just to attract subscribers, but to re-engage them and to make sure they don't churn, Emily. And it's hard, right? There's a reason why Netflix spends $17 billion a year on content. It's not like they do it because they want to spend too much money and they just toss and burn capital. The reality is you had to literally call up Comcast, or back in the day, Time Warner Cable. You probably spent the better part of your day on hold being transferred around to departments. If you actually got through the retention department and tried to quit or cancel, then you had to go return your equipment and stand in line. Like, it was being tortured. Now, if you want to cancel a service, it's point and click and cancel, and you can sign right back up a few days later. So I think in many ways, sports is being used as a tool that all of these companies are looking at to bring in new subscribers and to retain existing subscribers. And I don't think any of these will be all sports. I think that's a very hard business model. And I think it's one of the reasons ESPN hasn't converted to over the top yet. But I do think that they're all looking at sports as yet another tool to drive subscribers and retain existing ones.
Millions of subscribers were tied to those cricket rights. When Disney lost them, subscribers left. But something unexpected happened at the same time. Revenue per subscriber went up. The subscribers who stayed were paying more, watching more, costing less to service. And in 2024, for the first time in its history, Disney Plus broke even. Then in 2025, $1.3 billion in profit, $300 million ahead of expectations.
The company earning $1.76 a share. That was 31 cents better than expectations. Revenue came in at $24.69 billion. That was just ahead of estimates. Sports and experience revenue also topping what the street was expecting, but the entertainment revenue fell a little short. Disney's streaming business reported another quarter of profitability despite a 1% decline in subscribers for Disney Plus. The company also reported that Hulu paid subscribers came in at 53.6 million. That compares to the estimates of 52.9 million subscribers. And Disney is affirming its guidance for the full year. As a result, you can see that stock up by about 2% right now. There have been questions in some sectors about the theme parks.
This is what strategic churn looks like in practice. You raise prices, you lose the subscribers who were never really generating value, and you keep the ones who will pay for what you've built. It sounds cold, and in a way it is, because for those 39 million people who canceled, the decision felt personal. They grew up with Disney, they trusted the brand. They signed up because they believed the content was worth it. And then they felt the price double and the magic thin out at the same time. That emotional disconnection matters. Because Disney is not just a company, It has always been a feeling. And when the feeling fades, the loyalty follows. But here's the paradox Disney is now navigating. They need subscribers to stay, but they can no longer afford to chase them recklessly. Bob Iger said it plainly. We invested too much, way ahead of possible returns.
Of the company. It is. Maybe I can provide a little bit more specificity. First of all, we've done really well in terms of streaming, in the sense that we launched Disney Plus only in 2019, so it's just over 4 years ago. In a very, very short period of time, we find ourselves second to Netflix in terms of global subscribers for a pure streaming business. We know that we ended up losing a lot of money on that, more so than we expected initially. Part of that was because we were chasing sub growth and not as focused as we needed to be on the bottom line. I came back, the losses were around $4 billion a year. It was clear that that was not sustainable and not acceptable. And the goal was, first, let's reduce those losses. And as we've said, we're going to be profitable in our fiscal fourth quarter this year. We lost, I think, $130 some odd million in the last quarter. That's a huge, huge improvement. And we know exactly how we delivered that improvement. Now what we have to do is turn it not just into a profitable business, into a growth business.
That admission from one of the most successful executives in entertainment history is worth sitting with, because it tells you something larger is shifting. The streaming era, as we knew it, is over. The era of $6.99 price points and password sharing and endless content for everyone. That was a land grab, a war for territory. And the territory is now divided.
Disney Plus is the latest service to increase subscription costs and adds fees to stop you from sharing that password. Senior business and tech correspondent Jolene Kent breaks down what you need to know about the cost of your new shows.
Netflix holds it. Disney Plus is stabilizing. Everyone else is fighting for relevance. And the new game is not about who has the most subscribers. It's about who extracts the most value from the ones they have. That's why Disney stopped reporting subscriber counts, just like Netflix did, because the number no longer tells the real story. What does tell the story is this. If you invested $10,000 in Disney stock 10 years ago, you would have approximately $9,870 today, including dividends. The stock has gone nowhere, and yet the streaming experiment cost billions. That's the brutal ledger of a decade spent chasing a future that turned out to be more expensive and more complicated than anyone anticipated. And Andor makes it concrete, one of the most critically acclaimed television series in years, a show praised by audiences, critics, and even casual viewers who hadn't watched Star Wars in a decade. And after its success, the creator was told, "Streaming is dead. We don't have the money we had before." That sentence lands differently when you understand the full picture. It's not a eulogy for Disney Plus, it's a course correction. The question is whether Disney can thread this needle, spend less, make more. Keep the audience emotionally connected to a brand that has spent 100 years earning that connection. It's not impossible, but it requires something that corporate restructuring rarely allows for: patience, because audiences are watching. And they remember what Disney used to feel like. They remember when a Disney release was an event, when the opening credits were enough to make a child go quiet. That trust is not gone, but it is fragile. 39 million people canceled their subscriptions, and Disney called that a victory. Maybe they're right, the numbers say they are, but numbers have a way of missing the thing that built the numbers in the first place, the magic. And the real test of the next chapter is not whether Disney Plus becomes profitable. It already is. The real test is whether the people who canceled eventually come back. Not because the price dropped, but because something on that screen made them feel something again. That's a harder problem than any earnings call can solve. And it's the one Disney is quietly, desperately trying to figure out.